and speak with Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the Appropriations and Intelligence Committees. Welcome to you. It's nice to see you, and it looks like you're in a nice place.
Thank
there.
You.
Florida.
Good to see you.
Good.
Yes, very nice.
All right, well, let's first of all get your reaction to the number for the Obamacare marketplace. 476,000 people have filed applications, not enrolled yet, this on the federal and state exchanges. So at this rate, do you think the projection for 7 million enrolled in 6 months is realistic?
Well, I think it's realistic, but certainly going to have to do a better job with the website. It's been very frustrating that people have had difficulty logging on and applying. You know, the numbers of people who have been trying are very encouraging. There's obviously a lot of interest in enrolling in the health insurance exchanges, but you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, and the first impression wasn't very positive. A lot of frustration for people trying to apply and log on. I do think and certainly hope that over time we'll look back on this as an unfortunate rollout, but nothing more than that, because I think the exchanges will help bring rates down. And for small businesses and self-employed people, I think they're already seeing they can get much better plans at much lower cost. So at the end of the day, I hope it's an early blip, but certainly an unfortunate one.
Okay. The president, as you know, announced yesterday that he's got 3 specific goals for you and your colleagues in Congress. He wants you to pass a budget reform. Reform immigration, and also pass a farm bill. With 2 more funding deadlines just these few months down the road, do you think anything can really get accomplished?
Well, absolutely things can get accomplished. Whether they will depends very significantly on what the Speaker decides to do. Take immigration, for example. We have a very similar dynamic there in the sense that the Senate, like the Shutdown deal, passed an overwhelmingly bipartisan measure, and in this case, an immigration in June. And the question is, will the House take that up? If they took it up tomorrow, immigration reform, comprehensive reform, would be on its way to the president tomorrow. The question is, will the Speaker do that, or will the Speaker ignore the wishes of the majority of Americans and the majority of members of Congress and continue to cater to that small group, the Tea Party group, and their allies? So a very similar dynamic there. On the Farm Bill, I think, as well as on the budget, part of it may be dictated by how much that same group in the House wants to get a pound of flesh from the president. They obviously feel embittered about the way the shutdown was resolved. I hope they think with their heads and try to do what's best for the country. If so, we can certainly make progress on all of those issues.
The Associated Press has characterized this to-do list that I just mentioned as meager compared to what the president envisioned at the start of his second term. Do you get a sense of lowered expectations at the White House and among Democrats in Congress? Because we're not hearing anything about things like gun control legislation, climate change, raising minimum wage, expanding preschool education.
You know, they are dramatically reduced expectations, and you can see why. If it's this difficult just to keep the government open, then tackling some of these more difficult problems is going to be a real challenge. Immigration, though, I wouldn't understate the significance of that issue. We've been trying for a comprehensive bill for more than a decade without success. We've never gotten this close. Now we have a bill, a very good comprehensive bill that has already passed the Senate. So we're closer to reaching that goal than we've ever been. But you're right, on a lot of those other issues, on gun safety, on climate change, on early childhood education, we've had to reduce our expectations because of the very dysfunctional nature of the Congress and also because of the dramatically reduced revenues from the recession. But I hope we can find a way to get past this. I hope that we'll learn from this bitter experience that we've been through. And that the leadership in the House will decide to focus more on what the country wants than this very small group of members.
May I ask you quickly about some international news here? The new Pakistani Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, is going to visit the White House on Wednesday. It's now being reported that the U.S. plans to release $1.5 billion in aid that has been held up since the bin Laden raid. Do you agree with releasing this aid?
Well, It's really in our self-interest to make sure that they spend these resources in dealing with the terrorism problem. It's not obviously confined to Pakistan and Afghanistan. It affects us very deeply. So as much as it's tempting to cut that aid off, we certainly have a lot of issues with the Pakistani government. In many respects, it would be cutting our nose off to spite our face. So we have a deep self-interest in maintaining the relationship and also maintaining their anti-terrorism efforts. But I don't think it ought to come with no strings attached. I think we need to continue to press them to stop facilitating networks like the Haqqani network which is responsible for a lot of the cross-border terrorism against our troops in Afghanistan. So a lot more that we should ask of the relationship, and the Pakistanis should understand that this is not simply a one-way relationship where we provide financial support and get very little in return.
Okay. Congressman Adam Schiff, your time is always appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
And